Most regrets don't come from the things we did wrong. They come from the moments we stayed quiet when our life was asking us to speak. This is not a story about failure. It's a story about hesitation and how silently, almost politely, it can change everything. Ethan Miller was the kind of man people described as solid. Not exciting, not risky, just dependable. At 41, he lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Same house for 12 years, same commute, same grocery store, same morning routine. Coffee at 6:30, news on low volume, shoes lined neatly by the door. His life looked stable, predictable, safe. And that was the problem. Ethan worked as a project analyst for a mid-sized logistics company. He was good at his job, not exceptional, but reliable. He met deadlines, he avoided conflict, he didn't rock the boat. At meetings, he often had ideas, good ones, sometimes even better than what ended up being approved. But he rarely spoke first, or second. He waited. Someone else would say something similar, maybe less thought out, maybe flawed, and the room would nod. The manager would smile. The decision would move forward. Ethan would sit there, hands folded, heart slightly faster than usual, thinking, I should have said something. But he never did. That feeling followed him everywhere. At home, his marriage to Laura was polite and functional. No shouting, no drama, no real conversations either. When she asked what he wanted for dinner, he said, whatever you feel like. When she asked where he wanted to go on vacation, he said, I'm good with anything. Over time, she stopped asking. It wasn't that Ethan didn't have opinions. It was that he had learned, slowly, unconsciously, that expressing them felt risky. Growing up, he was praised for being easy, low maintenance, the kid who didn't cause trouble. And so he learned a dangerous lesson early in life. Silence keeps the peace. What no one told him was that silence also keeps you invisible. Psychologists call it avoidance-based decision-making, choosing inaction to avoid discomfort, rejection, or conflict. Ethan didn't know the term. He just knew the feeling. That tightness in his chest when he considered speaking up. The subtle relief when he decided not to. Relief that lasted minutes. Regret that lasted years. One night, after Laura had gone to bed, Ethan sat alone in the living room scrolling through his phone. A college friend had posted photos from a book launch. The caption read, "Took a risk, said yes to the unknown, changed my life." Ethan stared at the screen longer than he meant to. Back in college, Ethan had loved writing. Essays, short stories, observations about people. His professors had encouraged him. One of them even said, "You see things others miss." But when graduation came, writing didn't feel safe. So Ethan chose logistics. Benefits, structure, certainty. He told himself it was a smart choice. That night, he wondered, for the first time in a long while, what the other version of his life might have looked like. Not better, just truer. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject line, internal opportunity, senior strategy role. Ethan opened it casually, expecting to skim and delete. But as he read, his breathing slowed. The role required analytical thinking, long-term planning, and, most unsettling, presenting ideas directly to leadership. Laura read over his shoulder later that night. "This sounds like you," she said. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, on paper." "Are you going to apply?" He hesitated. "I don't know." "You've complained about your position for years," she said gently. "I know." So? Here it was. A clear moment. A door not fully open, but unlocked. The role would mean more responsibility, more visibility, more risk of being wrong. It would also mean growth. That night, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling, running mental simulations. What if I fail? What if they see I'm not leadership material? What if I embarrass myself? But beneath all of that was a quieter question he tried not to hear. What if I don't apply and nothing ever changes? The deadline was Friday. On Wednesday, he opened the application, closed it. On Thursday, he rewrote his resume, deleted the changes. Friday morning, the reminder popped up on his screen. He stared at it for a long time. Then he clicked dismiss. Nothing dramatic happened. No confrontation, no fallout, just silence. Weeks passed, then months. One afternoon, the company announced a promotion. The role went to someone younger, louder, less experienced, but confident. At the meeting, Ethan listened as the new manager presented ideas Ethan had once considered but never voiced. People clapped, Ethan clapped too. That evening, the regret didn't arrive loudly. It slipped in quietly, like a thought you don't invite but can't ignore. I had a chance. Over time, that thought hardened into something heavier. Ethan became more withdrawn, more tired, less engaged. Laura noticed. "You seem distant," she said one night. "I'm just tired." But it wasn't physical fatigue. It was cognitive dissonance, the psychological stress that comes from living out of alignment with your values. Ethan valued growth, expression, meaning. But his behavior said, stay safe, stay quiet, stay small. The gap between who he was and who he believed he could be began to hurt. And the worst part? No one else could see it. Silent regret is lonely because there's nothing to point to. No clear mistake, no single wrong decision. Just a series of moments where you didn't choose yourself. The regret followed him into small moments. At dinner parties, when conversations turned deep, he listened instead of contributing. At work, when junior employees asked for advice, he kept it surface level. Even alone, writing felt heavier, like something he'd betrayed. Psychologists say regret intensifies when we imagine alternate selves, versions of us that could have existed if we'd acted differently. Ethan imagined that version often. Not a best-selling author, not a CEO, just a man who spoke when it mattered. The regret didn't scream, it whispered. And because it whispered, it stayed. Silent regret teaches us something uncomfortable. Avoiding pain today often creates deeper pain tomorrow. We think regret comes from failure, rejection, or loss. But more often, it comes from self-abandonment. From the moment we choose comfort over honesty, safety over growth, silence over expression. Psychologically, humans are wired to minimize short-term discomfort, even if it costs us long-term fulfillment. Speaking up risks embarrassment. Taking a chance risks rejection. But silence guarantees one thing: nothing changes. Ethan eventually realized that his regret wasn't about the promotion, it was about the pattern. A lifetime of choosing later, a lifetime of waiting for permission. The truth is, most major life decisions don't arrive with certainty, they arrive with fear. And the absence of fear isn't confidence, it's avoidance. Growth almost always feels uncomfortable at first, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Years later, Ethan began writing again, quietly, privately. Not to be famous, just to be honest. He still lived in the same house, still worked at the same company, but something had shifted. He spoke a little more, chose a little faster, listened to himself a little better. The regret didn't disappear, but it stopped growing. And that made all the difference. So here's the question this story leaves behind. Is there a part of your life where silence feels safe but costs you something deeper? And if you spoke just once, what might finally begin to change?